morning everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for the webinar on Strategic Onboarding, a program for reducing time to market fit of new talent in partnership with Inspire One. I am Ritu from People Matters, and before moving to the agenda of the day, let me quickly brief you on the topic for today's webinar. Today, most organizations face challenges of high attrition rate right at the beginning of talent acquisition process. A corollary to that issue is in consequent reduction in productivity and increased time to market of new talent. Bulk of the attrition happens in the early stages, that is, the first 6 months. In this webinar, we'll explore how a successful onboarding program will help manage to all these critical issues successfully. It is based on a real-life experience of a banking sector organization and how this organization worked out this initiative to achieve their objectives in last 4 years. Let me now introduce to our speakers for the day. We have the privilege of having with us Saurabh Wadhwa, Learning and Development HR Partner Consumer Banking at IndusInd Bank. Saurabh has over 16 years of experience in extensive sales, training and management development. Presently working with IndusInd Bank, he is an expert in setting up training functions in organizations. We have also with us Suman Sethi, Principal Consultant, Inspire One. Suman has over 18 years of professional experience in people development and consulting. Her areas of expertise include enabling organizational cultural transformation, organizational development initiatives, and one-to-one executive coaching in leadership development. A partner for today's webinar session is Inspire One. Inspire One is India's leading consulting firm offering organizational and leadership development solutions. We have saved time for you to ask your questions at the end of the webinar session. For those watching live webinar, please send us your questions through Q&A section and we'll try to respond as many questions as time allows. We have a full exciting agenda to discuss in today's session. So without any further delay, let me invite over to you, Suman.
Thanks a lot, Ritu. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on onboarding as a strategic initiative. At the outset, I'd like to welcome Saurabh for joining us for this webinar. It makes us really happy to have him here because he was the person who was instrumental in conceptualizing and driving one such strategic onboarding initiative at his bank at IndusInd. So we'll have the advantage of sharing first-hand experience and views that he will share with us. IndusInd Bank, as all of you are aware, is one of the fastest-growing mid-sized banks in India today. It has this year been a top riser in the most valuable brands in India, so it's ranked at number 13 already. Also, you would know that IndusInd is known for its innovation and innovation in technology services that it offers to customers. And some of the really well-known ones that all of us have seen or experienced in the recent past are the Video Branch feature, the fingerprint access, the choice money, etc., and many more. I think what makes IndusInd really unique for us is the fact that it has made forays into various areas and has won awards in excellence for various things. So the focus seems to be really holistic. The growth approach seems to be really holistic in focusing on all aspects of growth. And people, as we all are aware, are a very, very critical aspect of growth for any organization. So, what makes it interesting is also the kind of investment and effort and focus that the bank is also giving to its people, and not just at leadership levels as most organizations would end up investing, but investing a lot of time, money, resources, people on the development and assimilation of even the younger people, the fingertips of the organization, the larger segment of employees in the bank. And that's why we thought that it, was pertinent to talk about the kind of efforts that can be made by that, made for that segment, and how that investment and that effort can create strategic impact for an organization. So Saurabh, welcome, and thank you for joining us today. So Saurabh, like I mentioned a little while back, was instrumental in conceptualizing and driving the entire onboarding initiative, and the details of which we will talk about as we go on, and I will keep requesting Saurabh to share his views and the inputs on what they did to make this strategic effort come to life. So having said that, let me go on and start with the first very critical question on why even talk about it? What is the business challenge, or what is the imperative that we are looking at? So the first question that we are addressing is the imperative. Just give me a moment. Technology is playing its role to brilliance. I'm just trying to change the slide. Anyway, so while we get to the slide, so the question is, what is the business imperative that we are looking at? Why are we even addressing onboarding as a critical area of impact? So there are a lot of, surveys, researches, experience that organizations have had in this area, which talk about the need to spend time and effort on onboarding. So one of the surveys talks about the fact that nearly 1 in 3 newly hired employees leave voluntarily or involuntarily before the end of the first year, and the number is increasing and is even higher for some industries. As you would all agree that investment in new employees is not recovered if the employees leave really quickly, and the impact is clearly on the productivity, on the stability of the workforce, as well as on the organizational results. And having said all of this, there is of course the cost of new hire turnover, which can be as high as 50 to 150% of the annual salary of the person. Here we are only talking about direct costs, the costs that are visible, the costs that are evident to everybody. But along with this come a lot of the hidden costs, which is really the bottom of the iceberg. And when we look at the hidden costs, we are looking at things like cost of hiring, cost of training, cost of supervision of these new people who have joined in, of course, cost of facilities, and also the cost of the hiring team and the time that the hiring team spends in getting new people to keep joining again and again, because there is high attrition, and the high attrition is also because people have not been assimilated in the right way right at the onset of their employment. So the writing, as far as we are concerned, is really clear on the wall. There is a challenge. It is a very evident challenge. It is a serious challenge, and it needs to be addressed. So therefore, if the challenge is clear and evident to everybody, and a lot of us are struggling with it, the question that comes to our mind immediately is that this challenge would have various components that would impact it. So it's not just about, it won't just be about onboarding or assimilation. It could also be to do with, are we hiring the right people? It could also be to do with our terms, what are the terms that we are hiring at? Are they competitive, the terms of employment, etc.? It would also be to do with the quality of our supervisors. Are they able to assimilate and retain people in their teams, etc.? So there are various components that will impact early attrition in an organization. So what is the role that onboarding can play, and why is that a critical area for us to inflect on today and otherwise? So I'm going to ask Saurabh at this point, what is his view on why is onboarding a very, very critical element of ensuring productivity and retention? Yeah, Saurabh, so can I request you to share your thoughts on it?
Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Suman, for this. So before I highlight why onboarding and what it can do, I'll just step back and share the reasons why we need to invest on onboarding. There are 3 broad facts which I have observed in the last 16 years working with retail organizations. Number 1, we have the highest attrition happening between first 9 months in any retail organization. Number 2, people who cross the vintage of 1 year, not only they become productive, they become profitable for themselves, they become profitable for the organization. Number 3, it's the early success which ensures that people stay longer in the organization in which they've joined in. So how do we ensure an early success? That's where the onboarding program comes in. And that's which would ensure that people feel successful being part of the organization. And onboarding is a moment of truth for them. So how do we ensure that they become successful in the early stages of their joining the organization? 3 important components, again, which an onboarding program should focus on, which would help is, number 1 is they need to have a pride for the organization. That's what an onboarding program would have to result into. They should feel that they belong to this place. Number 2, they should know what their role is. They are an important part of the organization. It's not that they've just joined in and it's another role in a company which is not as important. It's an important part of the organization which offers opportunities to learn, earn, and grow. Number 3, they have the desired knowledge and skills and enablers to grow in the organization. All these 3 can only happen if you have a right onboarding program in place. Of course, it has to be backed by the content and the quality of delivery, but these are the 3 broad components which any onboarding program should be able to deliver.
Thanks, Saurabh. I think that really makes the point really clearly. So the fact that onboarding is a very, very critical moment of truth, because that's the time that the employee experiences the organization and pretty much makes up his or her mind as to whether this is a place where they would like to be. And like you very correctly said, what would decide that for them is their feeling that they belong to the place, their feeling that they're important to the entire scheme of things for the organization, and also very critically their confidence in the fact that they can be successful in this role and in this organization, because success is probably the single most important driver of why a person would want to be at a certain place. If he's been enabled to be successful, he's likely to stay longer. And so therefore, onboarding programs have a potential of helping people reach their productivity levels faster, helping them assimilate better into their culture. And we all would agree that a successful and assimilated employee is likely to stay longer than a person who's not so successful or not so well assimilated. So having clearly made the case for onboarding and why we need to spend time and effort on onboarding, what I would request Saurabh also to talk about is what was the specific challenge that you were wanting to address at IndusInd by focusing on onboarding, and how did you think that would create a big impact for that challenge?
So as I said, that there were 3 challenges which any retail organization would have faced and would have faced in the past and would be facing are the early attrition, that's typically the high infant attrition which was hurting us the most, because we knew that people were not productive. It is a high cost to the company and the cost of replacement is extremely, extremely high. Then, because of which the inconsistent delivery of client experience by the new hires causing low client engagement. People would come from different organizations, have a different ways and methodologies to do things, and hence they would deliver different client experiences. This was the second reason. Third, the low productivity of the new hires typically. So speed to market to be productive is very, very important. We wanted to ensure that all these 3 get addressed through the program, and we need to work on a solution to be able to address all the 3, and that is why we conceptualized this.
Right. And it was really interesting for us, Saurabh, when we met with you at this time that it was being conceptualized. I think what intrigued us and what got us really interested in this whole thing was the linkage that was being made to the customer experience, the linkage that was being finally made to the results of the organization. So to us, it did not come across as just another L&D initiative, where we needed to train some people, but it came across as a very well thought through tool that the organization was looking at to actually impact the final customer experience, to make that consistent and thereby also impact the results. And that's where I think for us, very clearly, the strategic intent came out, that this was not an initiative to just run workshops for, just orienting people to the company, but this was an initiative which which meant that it would impact business results. And therefore, also, as we worked with Saurabh and the team at IndusInd on this, we realized more and more how even the leadership, leadership at all levels was involved, engaged, and interested in seeing how this panned out and how this was designed. So I think based on the issues that Saurabh spoke about, they had also identified some of the root causes as to why this was happening, all the 3 points that he mentioned. So one of the things was the lack of assimilation to make them successful. So that meant very clearly that any solution that we looked at designing had to ensure that through this process, people knew what would make them successful. So the very, incisive inputs that we got from IndusInd were around what are the 3 or 4 things that they believed will make this audience successful. And then it was easier for us to imbibe them in the design of the journey along with them. So they knew that, people's ability to, the workforce's ability to build and leverage relationships with customers was critical. They knew that, client mapping in a certain way, and they had a really great process to back it up, was critical. They knew that there needed to be a mindset shift from people selling products to people selling solutions, etc. And I think one of the other critical things that they also had identified that sometimes lack of product knowledge and lack of process knowledge also impacted the customer experience, because if a person is representing a certain organization and is not able to articulate either the products or the processes very well to the customer, it does impact the customer experience and the credibility of the bank. The trust is likely to break over there, and so on and so forth. So I think identifying the root causes or identifying the opportunities which would help these people to be successful was the other piece that came out very clearly as we started working on this initiative. I just also, just taking on from what Saurabh spoke about the objectives he already shared currently. The objectives, therefore, of this entire initiative were to enhance sales and service experience and the results of thereby, improve productivity of the relationship managers and the customer service managers, reduce attrition, and lower the time for them to be productive. So these were onerous objectives. These are not, small things to be achieved. These were significant objectives to be achieved. And thereby came the whole idea of, it had to be something that was longer term and not a very short term event or just a very short term intervention with people. If one wants to achieve objectives of this nature, the intervention also has to be conceptualized as a long term intervention, as a journey, and so therefore it was actually conceptualized as a certification journey. And that was the starting point of the whole piece. Before I go on to what were the elements of the whole mandate and the journey, I just request Saurabh again to share with us if you all could see the logo on the slide that says Indus Pro. So this was actually created as a whole brand identity for this initiative. It was created as something that people could relate with, engage with, be proud of, and so on and so forth. So I would request Saurabh to talk about, the basis of why did we brand this as Indus Pro.
Thanks, Suman. So before I share about the Indus Pro, why did we agree on these objectives, I'd just like to put some pointers there. Look, these objectives were not something which we thought, that these should be the objectives for which we need to work on a initiative. But we looked at, there were 2 ways to address this. Number one, we thought that we will try and understand why people leave, or we try and understand what makes people stay if they stay. So we realized that all these objectives were not something which we thought of. It has come from the successful people who stayed with us for longer, that they were able to deliver a good sales and service experience. They were productive. They were their initial success, and that is what we thought that let's go back and work with the population to be able to ensure that they become productive and they are able to deliver a better client experience in terms of sales and service, and hence these objectives were phrased. So there was a detailed study of successful people being done, and that is where we conceptualized this and we agreed on these objectives. Now, why IndusPro? We agreed on certain behaviors that we would like these people to imbibe, internalize it, and these behaviors and values are going to be talked about across organization, across levels, and if you want to be pro these values and behaviors, then you got to be IndusPro certified. So IndusPro would only say that Indus stands for IndusInd, and Pro means you are pro these values and behaviors. If you are pro these values and behaviors, then you are IndusPro certified. So that is why we call it IndusPro certified.
Yes, and then of course people who went through the journey had their own very great interpretations of it also. So, Pro lent itself to a lot of applications like building proficiency values or becoming a professional at these values.
IndusInd professional, yeah.
So the good thing about creating a brand which is aspirational is that people connect with it, people want to have something to do with it, and if you can build it as an aspirational journey, then it just has a whole different meaning. Then people's mindset to being part of this journey shifts from being, oh, I have to do this, to I would really like to be able to do this. And I think that's what the whole branding piece did achieve for the initiative. So I'm going to very quickly talk about, basis this objective, what was the mandate that we were working with, therefore. And I'd like to focus on, 2 or 3 critical words in this sentence. So it talks about implement a robust. Robust means that it needed to be something that was of relentless focus. It meant that it was something that people were willing to put their focus on for a long period of time and not treat it as a one-off. Application-oriented meant that anything that happened in this journey had to be completely and very easily applicable for the people on their job. So it couldn't be designed as a separate learning intervention and your day job is something completely different. It needed to be aligned to their day job so that they could use everything that happened in this journey in their day-to-day lives. So that was, how we started with the mandate. And then we moved on to stating it very clearly to say that it was a journey which would help people achieve product, process, and behavioral skills and competencies to be successful in their roles. It provided a certification, a very robust certification process, which we'll share with you in a little bit, which meant that the person needed to clear several types of gates in this entire journey for him or her to be certified as an IndusPro professional. So that kept, the focus ongoing, that kept the focus. Also, that whole sustainability element came in because of the long-term view on it. And finally, to our minds, a very, very critical aspect of this journey was that the employees had to see it as something that was adding value to them as individuals, which was making them better and more coveted professionals, and that's why they would like to be part of it. So they didn't, only attempt the journey thinking that this was something they had to do for the bank. They went through this journey thinking that it was actually also adding value to them, and that made a lot of difference in the entire scheme of things and the way that it was designed. So that naturally then brings us to, what were the key elements that were considered while designing this journey. So now when we look at the key elements, we look at the key elements in 2 or 3 various aspects. One element was the journey itself, right? So the design of the journey as to what should it comprise, what should happen, in month 1, month 2, month 3, what is the pre, post, during, how are we designing the various elements of the journey. The other equally critical, if not more, was the ecosystem that would support this journey. Because, in our experience of having worked with a lot of initiatives which are requiring significant amount of change from people, one of the critical drivers of that change is what are the signals that these people get from their environment. So So do they get signals from their ecosystem which tell them that this change is important, this change is required, and they are and the leadership team is committed to this change? So are they getting those signals? Is the ecosystem supporting it? And to our mind, one of the the differentiators of this initiative was vis-a-vis any other onboarding initiative that you would see was the fact that it wasn't seen as only an L&D initiative. It was an L&D and business partnership initiative where and which built a very strong, powerful ecosystem for it, because it was something that was part of business and not something that was being done purely as a training piece. So let's just look at some of these ecosystem elements, and what I will do is I'll quickly take you through the elements, and I'll ask Saurabh to also add on to these from how it was viewed at INDUSIN. So one of the things that we were very happy with as a partner, because that's something that we struggle with a lot of organizations that we work with, is getting the leadership team involved very, very visibly. I think what was a pleasant surprise to us was that the leaders were already engaged and involved and wanted to be a part of this. So therefore, obviously, a lot of thought and work had already happened, by the leadership, by the L&D team to ensure that the leaders were aligned to this, the leaders were committed to it, and they were visibly supporting it. The other element that we looked at was a very strong communication and R&R strategy. Now, the objective of these is twofold. One, of course, like we said, to build engagement, energy, pride, excitement, and so on and so forth. But the other one also is to kind of reinforce the desired behaviors. So if there were people in the system who were able to go back and apply the right behaviors and skills, and if you had a good R&R system supporting that, then a very powerful signal went out to the rest to say that, look, when I do this or if I do this, I will be acknowledged, I will be rewarded. And so therefore, that becomes the reason for why more and more people would become part of the movement. The third critical element of the whole ecosystem was the fact that supervisors needed to be aligned to whatever these people were undergoing. Supervisors needed to know what they were being trained on. Supervisors also needed to know how they could coach and manage and supervise this target segment better when they came back or during this journey. And then, of course, the branding piece we've already spoken about. So Saurabh, anything that on these that you felt made a specific impact at INDUSIN, and that
I think there are quite a few things which led to the impact, and to begin with, the most important was aligning everybody top down. This is the change. Most of such interventions fail because there's inconsistency of language used inside the classroom and outside the classroom. What you speak about inside the classroom and what the supervisor speaks about outside the classroom is there are two different languages being used. Then, of course, the employee feels that who to trust and who not to trust. It's like mother and a father teaching different values. So in order to ensure that there's a consistency, we did the alignment programs top down, right from the top management to senior management to immediate supervisors, so that there's a certain amount of consistency of the language being used, and hence the indicators which are sent out by them are consistent. But when I say alignment doesn't mean that they need to be aware of what's happening in the intervention. Aligning means that transferring ownership to them. Unless and until they become the owners of the program, the entire intervention, they'll never be able to possibly take it to the next level. Look, intervention itself, classroom intervention is only one part of it. It does not lead to change in behavior or doesn't lead to create a business impact. It is 70-20-10 principle says it's the outside the classroom which is 90% which contributes to the success of individuals. That's why the alignment was very, very important. Number two, I think what really worked in this intervention was we made it aspirational for these people to be part of it. How did we make aspirational? We said if there are no free lunches, you got to earn to be part of it. There is a prerequisite for which you qualify to be part of it. This would help us create a baseline of people coming into the program. There was a certain e-learning courses which they need to complete it, so that a lot of it goes, the knowledge and the conceptual part of it goes it on self-based learning, and the practice part of it comes in the classroom. So making it a good blended learning program, and hence they need to earn to be part of it. That's not what makes it aspirational. The aspirational part is also when they clear the assessment process. The assessment process is not done by an Inspire one or by the facilitator or a L&D team within the organization. It's including the supervisor who's part of the assessment process. Unless and until the supervisor takes the ownership and assesses the individual that he has the potential and he has shown, demonstrated those behaviors which we are trying to internalize through this intervention, that is what makes it aspirational. So they realize that it's not everybody can just be a part of the program and can be certified. The more tough it was, the more aspirational it became for them. Number two. Number three, we realize that sustenance of the program has to happen through constant reinforcement. Repetition is the mother of retention. If they don't retain those learnings, it won't stay with them for long. We realize that let's use technology, let's use refreshers, let's create a matrix. Even our balance scorecard should talk the same language. Everything what we talk about inside the classroom should, outside the classroom, everything has to be communicated through that. So the constant reinforcement happens through reviews, refreshers, online refreshers, and we publish success stories which made it for people to believe that this is possible because somebody else somewhere has done it. The fourth is then I would say is the most important is that we made success, demonstrated success to people through who they look up to. Many a times these people go to somebody to seek help who does not even have an answers to the problem. And that is why they feel that he can't do it, even I can't do it. So we displayed that these are the people to reach out to, which were among themselves who were successful, demonstrating those behaviors, and hence it's not just the business numbers and how they have achieved these numbers they can reach out to. Those were the people were highlighted as torch bearers or the flag bearers for the rest of the population. So all that what we did in this entire intervention, which was not just the classroom but outside the classroom, which really made it impactful. And thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. So I think in one line, if I was to really summarize what Saurabh spoke about, was the complete assimilation and alignment of everything that these people were doing to the T, so that it seemed like the onboarding journey is part of their life in IndusInd and not something other than what they do every day. And that really helped the ecosystem. Now, when we look at the key elements of the journey itself, I will just move on to the next slide to talk about that. So, in the journey itself, also we needed to keep in mind some of the things that would help to assimilate, all the objectives that we had spoken about while we were discussing how the journey had to be conceptualized. So I think one of the key things that we had to orient everybody who was part of the design or the implementation or the review of this journey was that it was not a new hire orientation process. We were not orienting people to what IndusInd Bank is all about. We were assimilating them as a very, very critical part of the IndusInd Bank. We were assimilating them to make them realize that they are, key contributors to whatever the bank will achieve. The fact that every learning that was provided was linked to the results that they were expected to achieve. So whether they were sales-related results or they were service-related results, each and everything that they were imparted learning on was linked to that. The fact that their knowledge of process and product, like I spoke about a little while back, was also very critical for the experience that they were creating for the customer, also made us include process and product training as part of this entire onboarding initiative. Again, the fact that, like Saurabh mentioned a little while back, pre, during, and post events were clearly designed, called out, articulated to the T. And here what I'd like to really mention is, what makes a difference to the success of any such initiative. Of course, the design has a really large role to play, because if the design is flawed, then the objectives achieved are also flawed. But once we have a good design which is aligned to the objectives, what is very, very critical is how relentlessly is that implemented, because these kind of initiatives can lose steam very quickly if the focus is not on the on the ball all the time. It's easy to drop the ball because, it's tedious. It's not easy effort. It's not all fun and games. It is about aligning various stakeholders, especially on the ground, the supervisors, the quality teams, the leaders, and everybody, and constantly aligning them to please keep talking the same language, please keep asking the right questions, so that people also keep their eye on the ball. And to us, that was handled really well by the bank, which was a relentless implementation of it, with all the stakeholders who were involved. And also, finally, a very, very critical element of this journey was the fact that there were on-the-job audits that were made part of the certification. So the certification purely did not happen on the classroom effort that went in. So it wasn't just that, you're going through a 4-day program and you will undergo certain certification at the end of a certain, assessment at the end of it. That was not the only contributor to the final certification. A very critical contributor to the certification was on-the-job audits that the supervisors were auditing, like Saurabh spoke about, for them to also take ownership to say, okay, this guy or this person is ready or not ready for this job. We'll also just, pictorially try and show you the IndusInd journey. So, and I'll also request Saurabh to keep adding on over here, because there were some things that were handled internally because they were to do with internal processes and products, etc., which is, of course, the first gate that, people had to clear was the completion of an e-learning module AMFI certification piece that they were required to finish within a certain time frame if they wanted to be eligible for the rest of the onboarding journey. So that was the first gate. Then post that, we had designed the entire certification workshop, which was a 4 to 5 day kind of an intervention, which included so since they had already undergone e-learning on some amount of their products and some product knowledge they had to acquire by self-study, this workshop included certain testing that was done on their product and process knowledge. So how much had they retained, how much did they know, etc. And those tests contributed to the final certification. Along with that, there were pieces on, the actual skill development, on the selling skills, on the service skills. And here we had taken the hallmark know-how of TMI and TAC, which are global leaders in service and sales-related skill building. So we were talking about the certification, the workshop event, the 4 to 5 day event that was designed. So here, though we took world, globally relevant content on service and sales, etc., the critical thing for us was to completely contextualize it to the various situations that the relationship managers or customer service managers faced in their day-to-day life, the various challenges that they faced, and so on and so forth. So the immense amount of pre-work and design effort went in creating actual situations and role plays through which these all the participants were supposed to apply the skills that they acquired during the workshop, so much so that the last day of the event was designed as just a role play assessment day, where they were all given various types of situations and they were required to apply everything that they had learned in the past few days regarding skills, products, process, etc. And those role plays were assessed by a panel of 3 people, which included a supervisor, a representative supervisor from on the ground teams. Once that certification workshop was, or part of the certification was done in that workshop, Saurabh just spoke about the constant reminders for retention. So we had already planned out what are the kind of messages, email, SMS reminders that needed to go. The email reminders were slightly more complex, or would be would have more input in them. The SMS reminders were the more shorter, on the spot kind of reminders, so that if a relationship manager was getting into a meeting and he got a reminder, he was immediately cued on to what are the various things that he could use while he was meeting with customers.
So email and SMS reminders were the use of these was done to improve the recall value. It wasn't there to go back and ensure that people retain, but it's to improve the recall value. The second part of reinforcing the learnings were when they would actually go through a refresher program. A refresher program where they would come back and share their experiences of applying learnings from the intervention, what made them successful, what were the roadblocks, how that needs to be addressed. That is the second level of intervention, which we went back through a online and a classroom refresher, which helped us. So
Yeah, and I think intervening these two events was also things like audits that were done by supervisors. So we encouraged all the supervisors to go on accompaniment calls with relationship managers to observe what the CSMs, etc., were doing, and also to audit them on various parameters that they were supposed to deliver on and provide them feedback. Now the interesting thing over here is that they could only provide the right kind of feedback if they themselves had undergone an alignment workshop, if they themselves knew what was the language that they were supposed to speak, how were they supposed to coach, etc. So ideally, what we tried in terms of the scheduling was that when a certain set of CSMs and RMs were undergoing their workshops, we tried to ensure that the supervisors had also undergone their alignment workshop either a little before or along with this workshop that was happening, so that they were capable and able to provide the right kind of support on the job.
Let me just share something more on the alignment part of it. The alignment had two objectives. Number one, what these people, your people, would experience when they would undergo this intervention. Number two, what is your role to ensure that the business impact is created out of this intervention? Number one, so while these two were the prime objectives of the alignment program, I've realized most of such interventions fail right at the expectation management by the supervisor. The moment the supervisor states that, look, you are going through a program which is you are going to be on a holiday for some time and then come back and I'll tell you what needs to be done, you've already killed the credibility of the program. The alignment program also would, while transferring ownership of the intervention, ensure that there's a credibility of the program established by the supervisor with these people before they even come to the program. What is expected of you? What will you learn from the program? Which are the critical parts of the program you should be focusing more? Once you'll come back, I'll discuss the action plan with you and take it to the next level. That was all covered in the alignment workshop. That is what I believe played a very, very critical role in order to ensure that there's a credibility attached to it, and when they come to a program, they knew that the supervisor would go back and check them that what they've learned and what is their action plan, how they plan to implement the learnings from the program as well.
Right. Absolutely. So I think the importance of that cannot be emphasized enough. Along with that, we had, if you see on the slide, something called the Pro Payback Learning, which was purely from, the sales-related skills and the model and the framework that they had been trained on during the workshop. We had also created an e-learning package around that so that they could again recall and retain, whatever was critical from there. This again is a proven framework for sales. The classroom refresher that Saurabh spoke about was an interesting intervention because in the beginning we started this refresher with, the zonal training managers conducting and leading the refresher and getting people to come and share their success stories or help them with their challenges. But also by and by, as time went by, we also encouraged the successful people, people who had been able to go back and create successful success stories, also to lead some of these sessions with support from the training managers. Now, the moment that happened, the entire ownership shifts on the person that I am not just responsible for doing all these things, but if I achieve a certain level of expertise, I can also be a buddy, a coach, a mentor to my peers on the ground. So that, I think, also helped people to then, work on this with a little bit more intensity and create results for themselves.
So I think what was important here at that point of time, how are we accentuating the positive behaviors? Is it only the numbers we are looking at to be a success definition, or are we looking at the right behaviors and the way it is to be achieved is what we are promoting it? If you don't validate that all this what you've done, if the success is on a different matrix altogether, believe me, the entire intervention would go down the drain. Unless and until you marry it through a balanced scorecard and ensure that there's a quality matrix attached to it, and you focus on behaviors on how to achieve it, that would only create predictability of business and consistency of performance in people. So that was the idea of ensuring that bringing these people in the forefront who were successful to talk about what they've done, how they've done, and what helped them to be successful, which helped in creating belief in the rest of the population that this is how I can get successful too. So I think that was the objective, and it really worked with the rest of the teams. The way failures are contagious, even success is contagious. What you need to ensure is what you as an organization want to promote.
Absolutely. And how holistic you make that approach. Finally, another very critical gate in the certification journey was the actual achievement of threshold targets that people were supposed to achieve after having got all this input, deployed all this input. They should be able to achieve, their threshold targets that had been given to them. And and the people who completed all these gates, cleared all these gates with whatever was the requisite parameters for them, they were the ones who were then certified as Indus Pro professionals, and much was made about them and it was easy to make much about them because they had results to back them. They had the right behaviors to back them. So it was the right thing to do, also to prop them up and show them as people who made this possible. So as you can see, the journey was pretty integrated. The journey involved various elements that we just shared with you, and anything that involves that kind of input from various stakeholders can be assured of success because people are aligning consistently and constantly to make this happen, because you've given each stakeholder a role to play in this entire journey. So great design, great effort, great implementation, but like everybody would be thinking, the proof of the pudding lies in what results were created there. So we'll very quickly share the results that got created there. Before I put the slide up and, Saurabh would quickly take you through, some of the results, what I'd like to focus on is that results were achieved at various levels. So there were business results that were achieved, there was learning results that were achieved, there was product and process assimilation results that were achieved, and together, therefore, the whole initiative contributed to productivity and retention and attrition. So I'll just put up some of the things that were tracked and measured over a period of time, and I would just request Saurabh to touch upon the critical ones, because going through each one of them would take a lot of time, but the critical ones, he would just, take a couple of minutes and take us through that.
So there are a couple of things which I would like to highlight first before I talk about a business impact or the results which we accomplished through this. Number one, at any point of time, if you feel that this was solely driven by a learning and development team and hence the results were their success, absolutely not. I keep reiterating, and I had shared it earlier also, that it's a business success. At the end of the day, the business has to take ownership of it, and the transfer of ownership has to be, you are facilitators and need to ensure that they take ownership of this. Unless until there's an ownership on the other side, there are no business results which can be accomplished. Number two, there are intermediate results. There are lagged indicators, there are lead indicators, and there are lagged indicators. Both need to be measured. So there were assessments done at different intervals, and looking at what the business impact we created was, there was an attrition drop in the RM and the CSM channel, relationship management channel, and the customer service management channel. Over and above, there was a productivity lift. The good part was, it's not the overall lift which we were measured. We looked at what is the percentage of population which showed the productivity lift after this. And we compared to the population which was not certified as well. So there was apple-to-apple comparison everywhere to validate that it has led to that impact, and it's not something else which has led to the impact. So percentage of population, there were people who got certified. We struggled to get people AMFI certified, and this because we built an aspirational value, we realized that there were people who actually were keen to get certified, and we observed a significant improvement in people getting AMFI certified. And then there was a e-learning coverage penetration, which was again a success. And then our initial the usage of application CRM system, which is called RMAX in IndusInd Bank. We realized that people had a lot of issues capturing their own opportunities or interactions of clients in that, but suddenly there was a lift in that as well, because they felt that there was a need to do it, and this was highlighted during the program as well, and there was people who started using that application in capturing opportunities and client interaction.
Thanks, Saurabh. I think that's, again, a very holistic, integrated view of the measures that we wanted to achieve. Finally, I know that time is running out. We will quickly cover, the critical question of what is the role that an organization can play, the organization that wants to implement a strategic onboard initiative, and what is the role that a partner can play in it, because it's critical to be very clear about who needs to bring what to the table, and how do both partners add value to an initiative like this. What I'm going to do is take a minute to talk about the role that we believe that the L&D leadership team and the leadership team at IndusInd played, because as a partner, we work with a lot of organizations, and we interact with a lot of teams that work on projects of this type and others. So we are able to now say, what kind of an effort or inclination the organization should bring to such initiatives. And we were at all times very, very pleasantly surprised and happy with the insights and inputs and intent that was coming from this team. So clearly, building the alignment and partnership with business on how this is a strategic initiative. So the L&D team's ability to do that, to rope in business as being a key stakeholder, conceptualizing what are the elements that would make new hires successful. That was a significant input that came. Also ensuring at all times that all elements of the ecosystem were aligned to the initiative. To us, these were very, very critical elements that the team brought into this initiative. When we look at what is it that a partner can bring to the picture, and this is something that I'm sharing with my experience, but I'll ask Saurabh also to add on. I think the ability to connect ostensibly an L&D piece to the larger picture and the business results. If the partner brings that kind of thought or thinking or designing ability, then that helps. Ability to diagnose and create a blueprint for all elements and stakeholders that need to be part of this journey, to be able to advise, give thoughts, give recommendations, etc. there. Of course, researched and validated content that will help create the value and the skill in people. And the ability to contextualize that content to the organization. I think this was very critical to our mind, because we have globally relevant content, and so would a lot of other organizations. But finally, it is how relevant we are able to make that content to the audience is what will cut eyes. And then, of course, best practices that we would have from working on other initiatives, etc., that would come into play. Saurabh, anything that you'd like to add here?
So the most important is first the belief that such interventions can create an impact. The partner should also have a belief, which we realized that the partner had that belief, and we also could align with them, and we had that belief too. So that's why we decided that we collaborate. If it's just a training intervention and we have to fill up a calendar days, believe me, that was not the objective. The objective was we have a business objective to achieve, and that's what we collaborated for, and we had a shared collaborative effort put in to achieve those objectives. Second, definitely what you said, the ability to contextualize and customize the content to the need of the target audience is the extremely important thing. If you would have the world-class content, but it's not contextualized or customized to the needs of the target audience, it will never help you achieve the desired objectives. And that is where, unless or until it does not belong to the learner itself, and he says, it's me, I can see myself in the program doing this, till then the program would never be successful. So I think these two things are very, very important in order to have being in your partner to be able to work with them.
Yeah. The last question is on what are the other initiatives that were put into play to impact, and I'm happy to say that most of these we have already covered. So I'll just put them up on the slide as a reminder, or as for recall. We've covered success stories and branding and visibility. I think Saurabh covered that in some capacity earlier, where he said that success stories are critical to build the believability of whatever is happening. And one of the other very critical levers or critical contributor to successful onboarding is also impacting the quality of hire, because I think over a period of time, what also would happen in most organizations is that even the hiring process, the selection process would get sharper and sharper, and also ensure that people who are coming in are already to some extent aligned to what we are expecting them to do for or with our organization. We have come to the end of the hour, and I'd like to very quickly summarize just 2 or 3 key points. I think the key points around the fact that onboarding is a critical contributor to business results of retention and productivity. We are all fairly clear about that. How should onboarding be designed and conceptualized for it to have strategic impact? So the various elements that are involved in that. We covered that. We covered the actual journey that was created in a real life situation, and we also covered the impact that journey created for that organization in terms of business and learning results. And we do hope that through today's session we've been able to add value and give some food of thought to all of you, or most of you at least. And we would be very, very happy to answer some more some questions that you may have. We don't have too much time right now to answer, but I'm just going to take up 2 or 3 questions which actually have already got answered during the session. So I'm just stating those so that, I hope that those people have their answers. And for the rest of the questions, what we will be doing will be that we will be sending you email responses to all of you who have asked these questions, and we will ensure that those responses come to you latest by Monday. So Saurabh and I would jointly look at those questions and send in the responses. So some of the questions that came up was, what should be the elements of an onboarding journey, etc. So those you would see we have already covered. Somebody has also asked a question around what would be the during, pre and post events that we were talking about. Those also have been covered in the latter part of the webinar. So I do hope that you've got your results. A very, an important and critical question is, how do you get supervisors to support on-job audits? Very simply, like Saurabh said, you just make it part of their job. You align them, you have workshops with them, you have sessions with them. You make them realize that their success depends on how well are they able to retain and make their team successful. So now I'm getting frantic signals from the team here to close it, since we have come to the end of the 1 hour. I'd like to close with a thank you to all of you, and Saurabh, to you for spending time and sharing your own experience. I'm sure it created value and people will be able to use it. So thank you all very much, and look forward to interacting with you in the future also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suman and Saurabh. It was a great session. We are receiving a great feedback from all the participants. So with this great exciting session, we are ending today's webinar. And our very, very special thanks to Suman and Saurabh once again for this webinar and the invaluable information that they have shared with us today. I would also like to thank everybody in the webinar audience to participate in today's session. Stay tuned for many more such exciting sessions with us. That concludes today's webcast. Thank you and have a great day ahead.